Good afternoon, Howard Wiig, ThinkTech Hawaii Code Green. I am very honored this afternoon to have as my guest Karen Shishido, Sustainability Manager with Trinity Management, which is an architectural and design firm that specializes in green buildings. And Karen has a really fascinating role in there, kind of a dream role for us greenies who want to create the world and leave a legacy. But I've known Karen for a long time, and Karen, you're a local girl made good because you started out, I believe, at University of Delaware.
Actually, I got my undergrad degree at Occidental College after going to high school here.
Occidental is in California.
Los Angeles.
Los Angeles, yeah. And then I know you ended up in Delaware.
Yeah, that's right. So I really got interested in environmental issues after college, actually. I was an English major, really didn't have much exposure or interest in these areas. But during college and afterwards, I got interested in environmental issues and started volunteering with the Sierra Club and other organizations. I realized that I couldn't get a job with my degree, so that's when I went to University of Delaware for a sustainable energy degree.
And were they the only university in the country to have such a degree? Because most of us locals end up on the West Coast.
Right.
And here you go all the way to some obscure little state on the East Coast.
Yeah, it's true. At the time, this was about 10 years ago, there were only about 3 or 4 programs that were specializing in energy policy that didn't focus on some of the conventional or dirtier types of energy like nuclear. So I specifically wanted to go in that direction towards sustainable energy. And I think the University of California, Berkeley was one, Columbia was the other, and then University of Delaware.
Now, I'm a Cal grad myself, so that doesn't surprise me.
It was very math heavy. That was part of my reasoning there.
And you mentioned that when you had your English degree, you were not particularly interested in things green. I suspect that there was some event or series of events that constituted a turning point for you. What was that turning point?
Well, you know, my parents brought me up with a pretty old-fashioned conservation ethic of not wasting. My mom's from Japan, so there's that ethic of muda, not wasting. My dad's from rural Maui, so, you know, he took us to the beach and taught us about preserving the environment. But it wasn't until I went on the Peace Boat, which was this Japanese NGO based in Tokyo after I did the JET program, that I was able to travel to 17 different countries, and I really saw firsthand the nexus between environmental damage, social justice, and economic issues, and I decided that I wanted to know more.
And the Peace Boat, its purpose is to promote world peace or international understanding? And
it's quite an interesting history. It was started in Japan in response to the textbook controversy after World War II, where they were sanitizing history, so to speak. And a bunch of Japanese people decided they wanted to go to the actual affected countries and see the truth for themselves. So it really was a humanitarian NGO, cultural exchange. And then there was a strong social justice and environmental component as well.
Okay, so you got your master's degree in, what was the field?
Sustainable energy, environmental policy.
Okay, and then what happened to you?
Then I ended up back in Hawaii. I was very fortunate. I met some folks in the state energy office while I was doing some research on Hawaii's energy policy and what we were doing in the clean energy world. And lucky for me, after a couple months, something opened up in the state energy office. So, of course, I met you, and yeah, that was my entree into what we're doing here.
Okay, and then you left for the private sector for Trinity Management.
Correct, after about 3 years.
And describe briefly Trinity Management for us.
Well, Trinity has 3 different focus areas. So we have the construction management practice, we have the project and program management practice, and sustainability. So there's some overlap between all of those, but basically what I and 2 of my colleagues do is we work with either the design teams to integrate the most common sense, cost-effective, and effective green strategies possible into building design, or sometimes we work with the contractor on the construction side to make sure that everything is built to specification and that we can achieve a green certification. It's usually LEED.
Yeah, so that's really, really, really fascinating. And you, to me, this is your dream job. I mean, you're as green as a four-leaf clover, and you're working with clients who are green-oriented, and you get to, I think your basic rule would be to ask, what is your budget, and how can we maximize the greenness of this project within your budget constraints? Is that a good summary?
Budget is always, as you can imagine, the number one priority of every owner. It doesn't matter if it's the government or private sector job. Our job as the sustainability consultant is to make sure that it's an integrated process so that we understand the owner's objective, what their priorities are. Why are they doing this? Sometimes the motivation is financial. They want to save on their energy bills and their water bills. Sometimes it's more of a mission-based motivation. For instance, some of the schools, private schools we're working with, they realize that there's a benefit of that cachet of this is a green school. We're trying to do the best for the kids' health and productivity. Sometimes it's a mandate because, as we know, the state has a green building mandate. So does the federal government and the city. So it really depends on what the motivation is, but we work with everybody to see what works.
Yeah, yeah. And generally speaking, you're shooting for one of the LEED classifications.
Correct. So it's usually LEED for new constructions. Some of you out there might be familiar with, there's several different kinds of LEED rating systems, but the one that's most commonly used is a new construction, major renovation. We also work with LEED for schools quite a bit. Once in a while, we will see a LEED for existing buildings job come up. Those are less easy to come by because it takes a lot more, you know, from the owner's side, it takes a lot more motivation to do that process, to retrofit everything. Yeah,
and then there's the cost payback with because you have to tear down walls.
Exactly, there's a big construction aspect to it.
And usually completely new wiring, that doesn't come cheap.
Right, and there's a lot of inconvenience to the occupants, so it's a bigger coordination.
Yeah. So are we ready to jump into your first projects and start talking about that?
Take a look at the slide. Just want to show folks a little bit of what the consulting on-site part of my job looks like. So on the left, this is a project at Hawaii Baptist Academy. It's a new high school building. And basically, as a consultant on the sustainability side, we have to make sure that this site is controlled at all times, that we're not polluting the waterways with runoff, with dust, anything like that. And then we also control the construction waste management very, very stringently to make sure that nothing's being wasted there. Next slide, let's see. So this is more on the construction waste. As you might probably know, our landfill is, I think, 30 to 40% of it is construction waste here on Oahu. So that is a really big concern for us in the green building industry. And part of my job is not so glamorous, but we go through all the different types of waste, asphalt, concrete, wood, metal, to see what can be recycled, diverted, reused. And then that last part on the bottom, I don't know if you saw that, but that's me in my hard hat.
Doesn't look like you. But, yeah.
I do have steel-toed boots, so it's,
my goodness.
Quite an accomplishment.
Let's go into a bit of detail about this, because I personally find it very fascinating about what you can do with construction waste. You look and see these huge buildings coming down in a pile of dust, and you say, oh, that's just rubbish. But in fact, it's not rubbish. Can you go into some detail about what we can do with what?
I wish that it was mandated for every project in the state, because it really is a concern, all the waste that we're putting into the landfill. Most of the construction materials can be diverted and recycled nowadays. We've made really great strides in the last 10 years or so. Asphalt can be broken down, crushed, and reused as base course. Concrete, same, can be ground down to rubble. Masonry units can also be recycled. just about the only thing we can't recycle are things like gypsum board, are not yet able to be reused, and treated wood, can't use that. We can even mulch some of the grubbing and the vegetation that we get from the site and take it to Menehune Magic.
And does that sorting go on at the site itself? Can you actually grind things up right there and bring big machinery? Or?
We usually have large bins on site and we mark them. So part of this is the training of the guys on site, the crew, make sure that they're aware that they can't put it all in one dumpster. They probably are used to that practice, but we get them to separate it all. And then when they haul it off to the different recyclers, then we get it weighed and measured to document that.
And does the cost of this recycled waste equal the cost of just general waste, the tipping fees?
The tipping fees, what do you mean?
When a garbage is disposed of, whoever takes it charges, I believe the latest rate is $90 a ton for that waste. I'm wondering if it's separated like this, if the tipping fee is less than that.
I don't know the economics of whether when it's bought back they can offset some of that, because they do charge a tipping fee and then they have a cost to break it down. Not too sure. I'm hoping that it pencils out.
And then in terms of asphalt, I know there's a company in town that can take old asphalt in part of its great big long piece of machinery and feed that old asphalt in, grind it up, mix it with tar, and create new asphalt. It does that in the front part of the machine, feeds that feedstock to the back part, and just lays it down. So it's grinding up in front and it's laying down in back. Do you know if that company is making any progress?
We haven't seen that on the job yet. Do you know if that was a state? Do they do a lot of state projects?
I don't know. I haven't heard from them in years. But you're speaking of that, just reminded me of that.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that particular company.
And and you mentioned a base course. Can you explain what base course, or what was the term you used?
That's what's poured under the concrete. So it can be fine gravel. There's sometimes some specifications from the state or federal side that prohibit the use of recycled aggregates in base course, but wherever possible, we try to encourage that.
Have any idea why it would be prohibited?
Maybe because of the quality control. They're not able to guarantee it or do lab safety or lab testing on it. It's the same with fly ash being used in concrete. Increasingly, we're able to use that as an admixture to increase the recycled content of the regular concrete. But the drawback of that is that because it's gray, when we try to get the point for solar heat island effect, which is if the light-colored materials throw back the heat and make lessen the heat island effect. It sometimes is a concern that fly ash mixture will make it darker.
Okay, well, on that cheery note, it's time for our first break. ThinkTech Hawaii. Be back in 30 seconds.
Aloha, my name is Kenneth Lawson. I'm your host here at Life in the Law. I'm really interested in law as I practiced it for 18 years before coming to Hawaii. I practiced criminal law and civil rights law on the mainland. Now I teach law at the University of Hawaii Law School, William S. Richardson School of Law, and I bring in guests who are very current on legal issues that affect your life here in Hawaii. Come and join me every Wednesday at 1 p.m. as we explore how the law affects you, how the law is changing, and why it's important that you should care about what's going on in your community. See you then.
Good afternoon again. Howard Wiig, ThinkTech Hawaii, Code Green. Very honored again to have Karen Shishido as my guest, Sustainability Specialist with Trinity Management, a green architectural and project management company. Karen, we still have you on the job site and making maximum use of the materials. And what about glass? Do you have any insights into glass and the fact that we recycle it, and as far as I know, it's just coming up in mountains?
There are some places that take glass, but as far as the ability to crush it and reuse it locally, sometimes on the mainland they have the crete and different kinds of paving materials that use glass, but you know, I haven't seen that used too heavily here in Hawaii.
Yeah. Okay, so we're at the job site and we're making maximum use of the materials, and then you're ensuring that there's no runoff. There's a lot of bulldozing and a lot of dirt and dust and everything, and you're ensuring that there's no runoff into streams or other affected areas. So we've got the site prepared, we've got the demolition material out. Now what happens?
Wow, then it's a 12-month to 3-year process of managing the construction. And as the sustainability coordinator or consultant to the contractor, we will go out anywhere from twice a week to once a month and make sure that everything is being done to plan, the air quality measures are being followed, the pollution prevention, as you're saying, is being followed. If we're working on the design side, and I haven't talked about that too much, but that's a whole different animal because we're not so involved with the construction if we're, you know, working for the architect. But on that side too, we will be taking a look at making sure the contractor will be following things.
And you mentioned going on the site every week, every 2 weeks, or
depending on what they're doing. If it's something really critical, we might be there every day. It's kind of hard if your job is on a different island, but that hasn't happened.
Well, you just have to camp out on that island for a while.
You know, I wouldn't mind. Some of these sites are really pretty.
Yeah. So you go out personally with measuring devices and like measure air quality for dust and particulates, or what goes on there?
Mostly it's a visual check. What we do is we make a lead implementation plan for the contractor before the start of the job. We do a training for all the contractor and their subs to make sure that everybody on the job understands the lead certification level that's trying to be attained, all the different measures that we're trying to avoid or promote. And we just go by that plan, basically, throughout the process.
And what do they, generally, I've dealt with contractors and the tradesmen out in the field, and they're generally kind of a rough, tough bunch of guys. And what do they think when here's this pretty young lady who comes onto the site and starts lecturing them?
You know, it's kind of funny. It's a little intimidating because I don't come from that world, and I've been learning on the fly for the last 5 years in a lot of ways. But my boss has been very supportive. He's a veteran of the industry, both on the architectural side and the construction side. And yeah, it's pretty fun, actually. Like, they respond well. I just kind of work with them and make sure that we have good communication.
Yeah. And what else do you check besides air quality?
Besides air quality, we look at what kinds of different, well, once the building is topped off and we have the roof is on, then a whole different lead credits will come into play. We'll start looking at the paints that are used, for instance, the finishes. You might be knowledgeable about the volatile organic chemicals that are used. Those are the things that give the building that new car smell, but it's actually not that great for your brain. And so we will make sure that the contractor is using the correct finishes. Sometimes they might have a problem. They run out of something. They run out of some caulking or glue. They run to Home Depot, but it's not VOC compliant. So that's the kind of things we have to watch out for. But more and more, it's becoming standard practice. And this is something that's happened through market transformation. Because of LEED, Green Globes, and the other programs that are out there and the various mandates, mostly, I'd say the majority of contractors today have dealt with a LEED building. The majority of architectural firms have dealt with or designed a LEED building, and they don't need to have their hand held as much anymore. It's not this weird animal that is a foreign concept.
Yeah, I have been in the field slightly longer than you, having been around the planet, or gone around the sun more times than you. And what was radical, far out, long-haired, tree-hugging stuff 30 years ago is now utterly, totally mainstream, and it's the job of people like you and me to come forward and be the tip of the spear, as we say.
That's true.
And transform the market. And I give a good example of market transformation. There was a guy I dealt with on the mainland a long time ago. He sold insulation for homes. And he was all enthusiastic. He loved Hawaii. And I said, well, why don't you set up an office down here? And he said, yeah, I keep trying to persuade the boss, but the boss keeps saying there's not enough market here, not enough market. We can't justify your cost. And later he called me and said, hey, Howard, I've got an office out in Aiea. And I said, what happened? And he said, the demand picked up. All of a sudden, we're just getting flooded with orders. And I said, oh, I knew the answer to this, but I led him on, and he said, yeah, there's this thing called the energy code that just passed.
Right.
And that's exactly what I'd been working on for years and years and years. And we got the energy code through so that residences, commercial buildings, all had to be built in a certain energy efficient manner, and that included insulation. Before that, the homes that were going up on the Ewa Plains, even though that's the hottest, driest area of the island, were not insulated, and people were just sweltering in there.
It's such a shame that we've gone from our natural climate and designing to our climate and just adopting cookie cutter designs from Southern California. It's really...
But at least now they're insulated, the air conditioners are very, very efficient, and so forth, so forth. The energy use in those buildings is easily 50% less than the energy use in the buildings that first went up, because there's so much to do. But back to you, I digress here. So one of your big pushes is for an integrated design approach. What is an integrated design approach?
Basically, integrated design is kind of at the heart of the LEED rating system and all green building, sustainable building in general. It's just the concept that being green shouldn't be the icing on the cake, because as we all know, sometimes the icing can get scraped off, and when the value engineering guy comes in and sees the green features, he or she might say, hey, we don't need that. So instead, we like to see green features as the praline stripe in the ice cream. Integrated, part of the basic recipe, and something that informs the rest of the design in a good way. We want this ethic and this mission to be something that is integral to the whole building and not just something that is added on at the end.
And then when you incorporate these green features, there are certain aspects of the construction costs that actually go down. I think the main aspect that I concentrate on is reduced air conditioning sizes, or just not air conditioning certain spaces at all.
That's true.
Substituting with the ceiling fans, because the smaller the air conditioning size, the less it costs.
That's where energy modeling comes in really handy, because we can make the kinds of decisions early on that will make sense for the project and save money and avoid oversizing air conditioning or slapping on too many PV panels when we don't need them. We always go energy efficiency first, as you know.
Yeah. And how about, are you familiar with the roofing options at all? Oh, but before you answer that, let's take a commercial break.
Aloha, Yappers, and a Happy New Year. I'm your host, King Zilly. From inner city out to the platform and now the Yap Show. It's a new year, and most would say a new beginning. So this is a call to action. As we promote tech, energy, diversification, and globalism, with ThinkTech Hawaii, the Yap Show is all about advocacy for effective leadership, comprehensive youth policies, programs, and access to knowledge and information for upward social mobility, especially for the historically underprivileged youth. This means we'll be looking at young people making a difference in their community. Youth policies here in Hawaii, the country, and the world. We want to highlight youth programs that are meeting young people where they are, working together to accomplish a goal or tackle an issue while providing information and access to free educational content for anybody looking to learn on their own time, study for an exam, or simply refresh their memory. We do this by inviting everyday people like yourself, state policymakers, youth advocacy groups, youth programs, professionals, and so forth. But most importantly, we'll be partnering up with my new organization, causeeffect.org. More information on Cause Effect, as this website is currently in development in hopes to feature courses, seminars, tutorials, and conducting surveys that will be featured on the show. As we leave behind 2014, I wish I could say we leave behind issues such as police brutality, youth violence, education, economic mobility, and so many other hot-button topics that made 2014 a difficult year. So what does it mean for the new year? What does it mean for youth policy? What does it mean for Hawaii as a whole? And most importantly, how does it affect you and your community? We want you to tune into the YAF show at 3 p.m. Friday and find out. Aloha.
Good afternoon again. Howard Wiig, Code Green, ThinkTech Hawaii. My guest is Karen Shishido, Sustainability Specialist with Trinity Management, a architectural and project management firm. Karen, we were talking about green design lead and all that, and you and I know from long, long experience that it's not just about saving money, reducing your utility bills. When you build a green building, there's a lot of spin-off benefits. One being comfort in the building, another being health, another being just the feeling of satisfaction of people in those buildings. Can you discuss that aspect of things?
Sure, I think that comes into play especially with educational buildings, and Trinity's worked with about 4 to 6, I think, projects right now. So basically, there's a lot of research out there that shows, as you know, that daylighting helps to improve student outcomes and performance, that the use of chemicals of concern indoors around children is especially dangerous because they're just developing and their brains are just developing. So more and more this is becoming standard practice in the schools. So not only how to make it energy efficient, but also safe and comfortable. So thermal comfort is a big part of that. We have a huge issue right now here in Hawaii with schools that are too hot. So that's something that we have to balance between aesthetics, comfort, energy savings. How do we get the optimum balance between those?
And are you involved in public schools themselves?
Yes, and I'm a public school graduate, so I feel like
as am I.
I feel like I know what it's like, and I'm really passionate about making sure that our public school kids have the same kind of learning environment that private school kids have. I think that's a basic right. And you know, I don't think that the solution has to be 100% air conditioning all the time. In some places it has to be, sure, but I think with the right design, we can get away from that, because that's obviously an energy intensive solution that takes a lot of coordination on the construction side. So how do we design better from the start to make sure that we're not sacrificing indoor air quality or thermal comfort, but we're also being good on the energy side?
Well, let me run an idea, one of my personal passions in terms of school design or residential design. Number one, as you're designing the building, keep the sun's heat the heck out of there. And we can do it not just through roof insulation, but overhangs and reflective roofs. You put those three together, and you have reduced, just by those measures, your interior temperature by a good, solid 10 degrees, and could be even 12 degrees. There's a difference between, say, 90 degrees in a sweltering hot classroom or 78 degrees, and we're local. We're used to this climate. 78 degrees is fine. And then you attach to that this brand new invention called ceiling fans. And I happen to know that ceiling fans, if you run them at a slow speed, they will reduce your perceived comfort by about 5 degrees. Run them at a fast speed, which might not be feasible in a lot of classroom environments, otherwise you'd have papers flying all over the place. But you can reduce your perceived comfort by a good solid 10 degrees with that. So why not design the schools to keep the sun's heat out, plus ceiling fans? What's wrong with that? And then of course you have daylighting to reduce your lighting load too.
It's interesting you say that, because I'm working on a project right now with Benjamin Wu Architects. It's a Eva Elementary School addition.
Do we have any slides on
actually, no. I have some slides on my other projects. But just really quickly, it's a mixed mode system. So it's a hybrid system. When it's hot, too hot, there's indicators and readers and measurement devices that will say that it's too hot. Red light will come on. Teacher, turn turn the air conditioning on. Otherwise, the ceiling fans will be running at a slow speed, and we have reflective roofs. So that's the integrated solution there.
Interesting. Do you know what that set point is for the temperature?
I believe that it gets no more than 82. Yeah. So.
On the mainland, they would have it lower, but again, we're used to
sure
hotter conditions here. And how about the issue of override on that particular one? Is there a way that the teacher can diddle with that and set it down to 78 or 77 or something? You know about that?
You know, I'm not sure if there's a manual override for there probably is, but that's where education comes in.
Yeah,
to make sure they know that there's those policies in place.
I once was in Austin, Texas, and went into a historic black part of town where they had taken down these shanties and put up this beautiful, beautiful elementary school, and it was fully shaded so that the great big plate glass windows had zero direct solar gain. So very comfortable, beautiful daylighting. You don't need, and this is in summer, you don't need lighting, artificial lighting at all, right? Every room that we went into as we were given a tour of this building had the lights on. And I said,
exactly.
I took the tour guide, the architect, aside privately and said, what's going on? And he said, oh, God. And I said, why not have the controls, in this case, in the principal's office? You want the lights on, you, the teacher, send a student or you go yourself and say, we need the lights on, and somebody's going to say why.
Right.
Otherwise, people just automatically override things. So.
Yep, behavior is a really big thing. You can have the greenest building in the world, and if people don't operate it as it was designed, then it could be a huge energy waster, as you're aware.
And have you specialized at all in the effects of daylighting? Read the papers and experienced it yourself?
I have, yeah. I've done a lot of research, especially on educational settings, on what the benefits are. So pretty much in all the projects we're working on, we have a really good use of daylight, especially that nice north light. Putting the classrooms on that side of the building wherever possible, and then shading appropriately to prevent glare.
There's a slide. But this is Nanakuli. Yeah, you want to talk about Nanakuli?
Sure. So this is a project on the west side in Nanakuli. It's a youth education town. It's part of the Boys and Girls Clubs. 9,000 square feet. I think it was certified last year, and it's LEED Gold level. And it achieved 35% savings on its energy bills, utility bills. Is using about 50% less water, and in consumption as far as kilowatt hours, it's reduced by 51%. And then the next slide shows, so you see in that top left, this is the daylighting that we were just talking about. Has great daylighting. There's an atrium area that has a huge window, allows the kids to do their activities, and most of the time they don't have to use electric lighting.
Now, I'm not even perceiving where the daylight is coming from.
The top in the middle. It's like a square building, so the entire middle is windows. So they have a lot of after-school programs. And that one on the bottom, that's a water catchment system that they use to irrigate this lo'i, actually. So there's a strong cultural aspect to this program as well as the green aspect.
You might explain what lo'i is.
Oh, it's a taro field that they're growing up there. So
that's pretty tricky in the middle of the hottest area of the island to be growing taro.
You know, I'm not sure how many inches a year of rainfall they're getting there, but they do have that huge catchment tank. And then I just wanted to switch back to that slide for a second, show you that they have a really cool weather vane and climate management system. So they were able to see in real time, the kids were able to see how much energy that PV array on the roof was making. And they're able to do science experiments and learn about energy consumption. They're able to learn about solar electricity.
Yeah, I always like that when you integrate that into the learning curriculum.
Sure.
And then they become very, very highly educated. So hopefully they'll go home and say, hey, Mom, hey, Dad, how come we're wasting all this energy
Exactly.
here?
And Howard, at this particular project, the kids are the ones giving the green building tour.
Ooh.
We help to make the signage, so there's some signage on the walls, but the kids teach each other And they've really taken ownership of this building. It's a beautiful building in a community that hasn't traditionally had that many resources. So it's,
precisely, yeah.
It's just been a really great resource for the kids there.
So are there groups that come in to see them, both not just kids but adults also?
Sure,
And
sure. There's been a lot of people
yeah.
that have gone there to see the green features. And then maybe we can switch to the next slide here.
Yeah.
Oh, that's actually the signage I was talking about. They have an aquaponics system here at Nanakuli Youth Education Town, and then some of the mentors that come in and work with the kids there.
And who are the mentors?
Folks from the community, and from town as well. And this next one is Hawaii Baptist Academy.
Yep.
So this was completed last year and is seeking a LEED Gold certification.
What are we looking at in the?
That's an over aerial kind of view. It's attached to the main campus there at Hawaii Baptist, and it's a 2-story. It's art, science, and general classrooms. 9,000 square feet. Group 70 was the architects, and Ralph Inoue was the contractor. So this is this left slide picture here. This shows you the daylighting. We're talking about daylighting. And they did a great job integrating this wonderful natural light on the north side into this classroom.
And we might, just for the uninitiated, we might discuss the importance of north side versus east-west versus south when you're looking at daylighting.
Sure, that's the softest lighting and the one that's most conducive to being able to work. The lighting on the south side of the building is usually more harsh, often causes glare when it's shifted into the building, so you have to be careful with shading when you have south side light.
And then, of course, on the east side, you have your rising sun. On the west side, you have the hottest time of the day, the afternoon sun.
Right. When we do a project, we always do a sun path diagram to make sure that we know when the light is going where and how do we account for that.
And then, of course, the lighting pattern on June 21st, the longest day of the year, is much different from the day we had just recently, December 21st.
Correct.
Yeah. And so when you're designing your building, you're designing in accord with that.
Right.
Yeah, yeah. Very, very exciting stuff.
Yeah, should we just finish up on this? Let's see, here's one more slide that I wanted to bring up here.
Don't we have some more slides? Yeah, we do.
This is the last one. So this is just to show folks at the HBA building again. So it was built in 2 phases. There was a renovation of the existing library and locker rooms, and the new building that you saw earlier. So this one on the top left is a classroom, and it shows that 21st century learning is the new paradigm that you might be familiar with, and a lot of it is integrating technology into learning because the kids are native with digital.
Yeah, they grew up with an iPad in their hands or something.
Sure, right, and so the teachers are very savvy to that as well. So modular furniture is a big part of it. No longer is the paradigm the teacher stands in front of the class and they're just in rows looking in front. They do a lot of group work. They learn from peers. They do peer reviews and grading. So the furniture has shifted a lot more. It's not just fixed, it's modular. It has casters, it's on wheels. And then here on the the bottom right is the learning center, and it's not called a library anymore, it's called a learning center.
Yeah.
We're even getting away from the concept of fixed areas to put books, right? So it's integrates technology. There's still books there, and it's a beautiful space, but they did that with the knowledge that technology is changing, and they have to allow for that to happen in the future, for those changes to happen.
Okay, and on that last slide, it looked like a beautiful daylighting slide, and that reminds me of the fact that Charles Kaneshiro took me on a tour of the first phase of Hawaii Baptist, and it was one of the best learning environments I have ever seen in
This is the
my
middle
entire
school? Sure, it's very beautiful.
With great big plate glass windows with greenery outside and the sun streaming through.
That campus is so beautiful. I had no idea because I had never been there before, but it's right along Nu'uanu Stream. And the kids are just able to access nature. They're able to see it from their classrooms, and at lunch they can go and sit next to the stream, overlooking the stream. And it's just, it's almost like a college campus, really. It's very peaceful.
And as a closing note, I would remind us all that we hominids, we two-legged creatures, have been around for, last count, 4.2 million years. And our ancestors spent all of their time in the outdoors except when they were in caves or whatever. And it's only in the last 100 years that we've been spending the majority of our time indoors. So now we're kind of going back and bringing the outdoors, which we evolved with, back indoors with us. And of course, Hawaii is the ideal place to do that.
Yep.
And this is a large part of your job, I gather. Yeah.
Really excited to be a part of it.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, last time I heard daylighting, good daylighting and views the outdoors for kids increase test scores by up to 20%. Yeah. And now we're looking at offices, same concept. Office workers are more content, they feel more satisfied, they're actually healthier and more productive when they have access. I think that's the next
frontier is the well building standard and bringing that into the workplace.
And melding that with the totally efficient design. Yeah. So you probably grew up in a non-air conditioned home?
Correct, yeah. Non-air conditioned home, non-air conditioned schools, 12 years in the Leeward District, and you know, it was hot, but we managed to make do. But imagine if I had air conditioning or better design, maybe I would have been the president. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, on that very cheery note, it is time to bid fond farewell from ThinkTech Hawaii, Code Green. Thank you very much, Karen Shishido. Oh, do you want to give your email address in case people want to, very slowly, clearly?
Yeah, so it's Karen Shishido, and that's Shishido, and it's up right there, Trinity Management Group, K Shishido at Trinity-Hawaii spelled out.com.
Okay, very good. Thank you very much. This has been a very enjoyable session.
Thanks a lot, Howard. Appreciate it.